Okay, this is Big Mac, and today I'm going to show you guys how to hack like a script kiddie. So there's a few tools that I made for this video. I'm going to perform a technique that I learned a long time ago, and yeah, I guess I'll just launch an attack real quick and explain what's going on. So projects, Uniscan. We'll go like this: Ruby get domain list hack5.org. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to retrieve all the shared domain names that are registered to the same IP address. It's a shared hosting box. So here you go. Hack5 is shared on the same box as some of these here. Let's say you ran a scan against Hack5 and your scanners reported that this web application is pretty secure. So what I would do next is to attempt to get into this guy here. So if I got into this guy, let's say I got command execution, that would allow me access to system files, error logs, let's say this thing here, etc pass wd. There's so many. Once you get access to somebody's domain, you could then explore further options to actually get into your targeted domain. So this is only a technique that works when it is an actual shared hosting box. So I'm in the Uniscan folder, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to run that tool again. We're just going to change it up. SubaruParts.com, and we're going to save it to a file, targets list. So this is a Ruby tool. I would like to show you guys the steps that I took, the hoops that I had to jump through to make this possible. So target, there's about 1,000 domains in this list. So I'm going to run a scan on all 1,000 of them. You could do this with Uniscan. Simply like what is it, file, give it a file list and a target and then your command. But what this is going to do is this is going to be very slow. It's going to attack one at a time, and you can modify the threads. You can give it 30 threads, but that's the get requests that are sent out, or the post requests. What I'm going to do is scan however many I choose. I could launch a scan on all 1,000 of them just like that. But I'm going to start an attack on 30 of them, and then once one scan completes, it's removed from the list and another one is added, like a pool. So my method is going to be much more quicker. So Ruby, scan it, give it the target list, and okay, let's see if it, so 30 of them have started. I'm going to open up another console here. And this is a tool that I use daily. TCPICK. It's just like Wireshark or TCP dump. BPS color. I gotta fix that. This tool you can use filtering options like just like Wireshark. You can actually copy and paste filtering options directly from Wireshark and into this tool, like destination IP. And you can filter out that kind of information. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to look at the post requests and the get requests that my client is sending the servers. So it kind of just gives you a peace of mind on what's going on in the background. You should start to see some SQL injection attempts, some local file inclusion attempts, or remote command execution attempts. So another thing here is I've modified Uniscan to only perform SQL injection, blind SQL injection, local file inclusion, and remote command execution. I've disabled all the other plugins to hopefully speed the process up, because I am processing a huge list of domains through this scanning. I'm just trying to discover vulnerabilities so that I could later on maybe check in on it, perform the manual tasks to exploit the machine. The way I've designed my script is I could also include not just Uniscan. I could also launch SQL map FI map, what is it, W3AF, CLE, any console-based scanner, I can incorporate them in the same manner. So I can modify my script and include more scanning tools to be automated in this whole process. So I'll give you an idea of what happens when you find some vulnerable results. Go back to my projects folder, Uniscan, and we're going to cat Uniscan log. I make all my tools output a log file in the form of a greppable log. That allows me to simply grep out keywords. So in this example, Uniscan already does that, which is very useful for me. That saved me time. Like I said, this is a skiddy way, or a script kiddie way, to speed up things. This is it's all about speed. I was lazy. I didn't feel like building the scanner myself. I have before, but I could spend a week and then I can perfect it. It can be more reliable than using something like Uniscan. But when you have all the tools available and you just want to make a quick tool and you can just get up and running, launch an attack, and get your results, then you could end up with something like this. Blind SQL injection discovery. That's what I'm looking at right here. Some of these are false, but some of them are real. So I would like to explain how these tools work. It's done in a few steps. First, we got to get the domain list. So how did I do that? Let's check. Okay, here we go. This is a tool, reverse DNS info. If you type in a domain name, hack5.org, it's going to retrieve some results for you. It's going to retrieve on their record, all the domains that are shared on this same IP address. So how did I get this information? The first thing I did was, your first step in producing a tool like this is, let's go like this, curl, just get the page. So what happens here is I've triggered a sort of a intrusion detection plugin. It's given me phony encrypted results. I thought, oh hey, I'll just try and decrypt it. No, because look at the date. They're false, they're fake. So if you scroll to the top here, that web service, when I sent this GET request, has detected scripting from my machine and has, I guess, sent me a warning. Don't do this anymore. Come on, come on, come on. All right, please, I'm sorry. Your system has been detected. Sending scripted, automated requests to our site. Please stop, basically. So you can't just send a GET request. I tried modifying and using a valid cookie. Still triggered the intrusion detection. So then I thought, Google web page translate. I figured, if I go with Google Translate, you type in your website, and Google Translate will take that and translate it. Google Translate is a much more secure platform, and I mean, you could automate it, but it turned out to be much more difficult. So I found another identical website translator. So when you type this in here, you get a translated page. No intrusion scripting detected was tripped. The information's right here. Now I just got to get it in the same manner that you would with curl, but you still have to get your valid cookies, your PHP season IDs. You have to use those, so that's what I did here. So the first tool, nano, get the domain list. I sent a GET request, a very basic GET request to this site here, this translate service here. So sent a GET request, and all I did was capture the cookie, the cookie that I would need to authenticate with the service and trick the service into thinking that I'm a real person. So then I submit a post request. The post request looks like this, the data that you would have to send. Let's see if I can scroll through it a little bit. So I place the target here. You can replace this target with Hack5 or any targeted domain, you just simply replace this with the domain that you want or the IP address that you want. So submitting a post request, that's your data that you're sent. Here's the cookie variable that I've set above. It's got the PHP session ID, and I used a user agent. Sometimes I like to use an Android phone user agent, just kind of makes it look a little more legit, but not really necessary. So then I've received the third get request right here, actually retrieves the information that you want by requesting from the index. It's just how they do it, this content. So now I have the information all saved in a response buffer, and then I process the buffer, and right here I process the buffer with Nokogiri HTML library. It's something that is very useful when you're building web scrapers. I stripped out all the links and I placed them in a nice list. Down here I was working on another little option. I wanted to resolve each individual domain to see if in fact the IP address is still matching or is still valid. Things can happen like a few years ago they registered the domain and then moved servers or made upgrades and changed locations. But for the time being, I don't think that's very much necessary. So that's that tool. It just simply sends a few get requests, and I jumped through a few hoops just like a skiddy would very quickly, got the information that I needed. So the next tool, what was it? Scan it. So scan it, you run it just like the format you see here, Ruby scan it, and then give it a domain list. The domain list has to be a proper HTTP / and ending with a trailing slash for the purposes of Uniscan. Uniscan needs it to be in that format for it to work. So we read from the file, and I've started a thread list check. It checks if there are 30 threads. If there are not, then it processes the very next target on the list. It starts up a system process right here. It starts it as a thread, so there's 30 threads running at a time. And it's important when you mess with threads that you don't max out your RAM, your CPU, or your network bandwidth. If you send out too many get requests or whatever, you will get false results. You'll have a bunch of connections closing out on you because they're just timing out. So we're starting up a Uniscan process, a very simple single command line. Give it a URL and give it the target domain and the D for dynamic scanning. I gave it a 10-minute timeout option. What can happen when you're scanning a domain or a web page? What could happen is your scanner could get trapped in a honeypot, or there's little gizmos and tricks and plugins that these websites can use to just shovel you gigabytes of fake data, and once your scanner gets trapped in it, it cannot progress. So unless if you remake the tool yourself, you can better adjust for these kinds of things, but that's one of the many variables that you have to take into consideration. So I gave each one of these applications that starts up 10 minutes is all that I'm going to allow it to scan. Here's the timeout. It kills the thread if that 10-minute timeout occurs, and simply a while loop to continue running in the background. So what I could do here is I can simply take this block of code here, and I can copy it into another I can create another function and add SQL map. I can add W3AF console vulnerability scanner. I can add multiple scanners and all produce the same results, same technique. So I mean, it very quick, but I think very powerful, very quick results. And sometimes I built this tool because I didn't, I was just at work and I felt like logging back into my computer and checking a domain to see. My first instinct is to check how many domains are shared on the same IP address. That's my first instinct. If it's a low budget website, and most likely it's going to be on a shared hosting domain. I'm not going to go through the process of explaining how to further exploit a local file inclusion or an SQL injection, that comes with time. But discovering these vulnerabilities are, you know, it's a lot of fun, honestly. So let's check the Uniscan log. What do we want? We'll go grep lowercase vuln. Not that it's gonna. This is now grepping out live data. If I went like this and removed the grep, it'll show you exactly what you see down here. So if it happens to hit a new so anyways, the technique is something that I learned a very long time ago. I was following around a hacker through voice over IP chat rooms and shit, and just listening to what he was saying, what he was doing. His name was Mole Cyber, and he hacked into and rooted hackforums.net. Hackforums.net is like the most popular online hacker forum. It's full of junk information, it's full of skiddies, it's full of people trying to scam you and con artist you into purchasing a tool. I'm going to post this tool on Hack5's forums because sometimes, you know, I don't like to give things away for free. This is something that was so simple to build. I would like to do a walkthrough on step-by-step how I produced this code, how I reverse engineered this get request, post request technique. But you know, that would be a whole new video all by itself. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something from here. You don't have to, you know, recreate the wheel every time you want to get in and start hacking. You know, they call it script kiddies, they call it skiddies, whatever you want to call it. If you are, it's all theory. If you got the theory and you got a little bit of knowledge on coding, scripting, Ruby, Perl, Python, you can produce very powerful tools really quick. If I boot up Kali Linux, I would have all the tools available, and I can you know, do exactly what I was talking about earlier. I can add more tools to this. I can click right into the Kali web application scanners and just start plugging more of them in to this type of technique, and I can produce a lot of results and really, you know, check off all the variables between what's vulnerable and what's not. So here's a quick peek on how did I modify Uniscan. Uniscan, when you launch Uniscan as a, let's go like this. Well, we'll see if it loads. Okay, Uniscan. Typically, you give it an option like this. What is it? Q enables directory check. I don't want to perform a directory check on 1,000 domains because that could turn into like a week-long task. I don't want to check for files. I feel that it's unnecessary. I don't really care about the robot text file. The dynamic checks, I'm definitely interested there. Static, maybe a little bit. Stress, not so much. So the modules. Let's go to plugins. What did I do? I went like this: cd test, cd dynamic, and list it. So you see the file check backup. I just renamed it as file check, and I just gave it a trailing BK just to remove it from the plugin list. We're doing blind SQL injection. We're checking for LFI, remote command execution, RFI, remote file inclusion, some more blind SQL injection, and I removed cross-site scripting. I don't need those kinds of. These are just. I'm trying to perform a very large scan as quick as I can and produce positive results that will get me command execution. So simply just renaming these files allowed me to speed up the Uniscan, you know, process. So that's all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think.